Good morning. It's Dr. Bill Williams again on the Influencers Podcast. It's Friday morning. We're always excited to have you here in the audience, 190 countries around the world tuning in to see who we're going to bring in next. We always bring in the top influencers, and today is no exception. We've got excellent discussion going on all day long. And today we're going to talk to Lori Greene, founder of lpgedu. So what in the heck is that? Lori, come on down. Tell us about lpgedu on the Influencers Podcast.
Hi there. I'm so happy to be here, and thank you for joining, everyone. I started this new company called lpgedu. It's a training and education consultancy. And what we do is we do education strategy and curriculum development. We do e-learning and video production as it pertains to training and education. And we do live learning, whether that's virtual or in person. We do both of that.
Sounds like you got your hands full. Sounds like you got a lot of experience in bringing content to the world.
Yes, I do.
Well, we're going to find out about that. And let's kind of start off by giving us your background story.
Sure. So my career has been a little zigzag. I always joke when I talk to my students that I don't know a lot of people in media and content creation whose careers went like that. It's a very zigzaggy kind of industry. So I've always been in the content space, though, and it's about content and storytelling. I was a travel writer, a TV producer, a marketer, a content creator, and education, and the whole thread that pulled it all together was really storytelling. I just finished 4 years at Netflix, where I was the global manager of education, external crew education. At Netflix, they do video production for local audiences, for local content, using local talent. And so the talent locally around the globe is not always understanding what the global best practices are. So I came in and we did training in 20 countries on 6 continents, and we helped Netflix to increase the level of quality, creativity, and efficiency in the titles from all over the world. I've also been teaching for over a decade. I teach at NYU. I teach marketing, analyzing the digital content. I teach at a master's program at Fordham University in the Gabelli Business School. And I just launched this training and education consultancy that is geared towards professionals and in the entertainment, media, and marketing space.
Sounds to me like you're a professional. I fell into the Netflix binge watching category a couple of years ago, particularly during COVID.
Yep.
And I got to fall in love with the productions out of Iceland, Finland, Spain,
yes,
Germany. I mean, they're different from what we had on American TV fare. There's a lot less car smashing and flashbang.
Yes. I love Casa de Papel, or Money Heist, from Spain, and The Empress from Germany. I think those were amazing. I think The Empress just won a major award as well. So very exciting.
Yeah, it's really good to be involved with international dramas on TV or Netflix and see how people are just different or the same in lots of ways. But yeah, I bet you had a good time traveling to these different locations, being on scene, dealing with different populations, different cultures.
I love that. I absolutely love that. I'm married to a travel journalist, Peter Gutman, and I've been to about 140 countries in every continent. And so I love to travel. I just love to travel. And what I really adore, especially about being in person and training people, is seeing the light go on and the gratitude that people have that you came in and you helped them. Because as Nelson Mandela once said, education is the most powerful tool you can use to change the world. And I believe in that strongly.
Good. Well, we have a lot of connection in that world of wanting to educate. I've been an educator for 40 years, traveled internationally since 1981.
Wow.
Teaching primarily dentists to be better dentists.
Yep.
And I gravitated from technical how-to orthodontics and TMJ and reconstruction into management and communication and marketing leadership in the last half of my career. So I've kind of been through some of what you're doing. I love travel. My first travel was to the first one that was beyond our borders was to the USSR when it was still behind the Iron Curtain.
Yeah, that's exciting. Wow.
And just to go places and do things with your own profession, but in a different setting is amazing.
Amazing.
Tell us kind of a failure story that you're involved in, could relate to kind of show us how we can avoid some of these pitfalls.
Well, much like everyone else, I make tons and tons of mistakes. In fact, I can probably spend the entire podcast talking about the mistake I've made. But for me, I always try to make lemons out of lemonades and not to dwell on the woe of it all. So that's really what has kept me upbeat and positive and productive. And frankly, that's what makes me happier. But a while ago, I realized that I've been working on improving that have gotten me into trouble. One of them is hubris and excessive pride or self-confidence. And that got me into trouble, especially when I was younger in high school and college. And the other one is impatience. Frankly, honestly, the hubris was much easier to tame than impatience. And I have been working my entire life on being much more patient. I've gotten a lot better, but it's still a work in progress.
You want it now. What are these other folks doing that causes them to fail? You've seen a lot of people try to make it, but they didn't. What was the common denominator?
So again, hubris, if you go back at that, not listening to people, not being open to conversation and working together and teamwork. I think that's really trips people up. And getting too used to a routine and not getting out of your comfort zone, which we can talk a little bit more about, and not being prepared for what's next. You know, I always say every time I have a job or do something, I'm always thinking, what is the next thing that I can do or that I should be doing? And even when I was at Netflix for 4 years, Netflix is not it's not the easiest place to work. And everyone you talk to is always like, thinks they're going to be laid off like any moment. So I was sort of thinking about this business, this lpgedu, even before I got laid off from Netflix. So I think what's really, really important is to think about what's coming, to be aware and to get out of your comfort zone, because if you don't do it, somebody else will make you do it.
Yeah, I just finished a podcast with a marketing genius out of New York, and he said, not having a plan is the reason a lot of people fail. So you're saying the same thing.
Yes.
You need a next step. You need to know where you're going.
Yeah. And then also, what are your goals personally, right? What are your personal goals? What do you want to achieve for your business and for yourself personally? And how are you going to go about doing that? Is there a plan? Is there a strategy? I've seen a lot. If you are miserable in your job, go get to do something else, because eventually you will be let go, because you're probably not performing at the level that you need to perform at. And I tell a lot of my students that don't do anything because someone else tells you to do it. Don't pick your career because your parents think you should be there, your boyfriend, your husband, or whatever. It's your life and you have to live it. And I don't want them waking up at 35 and 40 and saying, oh my God, what did I do? Like where did my life go? So I have found personally that if you're and we'll talk a little bit more about this later, I think, but if you're passionate about something, that passion shows through and it makes you more successful.
I think so. Well, it looks like you got the motivation, no matter what happens to you, to step into the next thing with verb, with a passion.
Yeah.
So tell us about the motivation. What gives you that internal push?
I love to work. Not everyone does, I really love to work. I love accomplishing things. I love being goal-oriented and meeting goals. And I think all of that motivates me to just keep going, to keep moving, to keep growing and learning. I'm not just an educator. I like to learn too. And I always take these jobs where I can learn. I feel like at Netflix, which I love my time there, I got a PhD there in learning. And so that all motivates me to keep going and to keep moving. And I really like to be busy. I find I'm much, much happier as a human when I'm busy, I'm working, I'm accomplishing things. And so those are some of the things that motivate me.
Yeah, I agree with you. When COVID came along and we sat home for quite a while, I realized that being a dentist, if I was not going to be at the chair tied down to those golden handcuffs, where we can only make our money sitting there at the chair, I realized I had to figure out what else I would do once I retired. So I'm like you, I've got to be busy. Tell us about your company motto at lpg.edu.
Yes.
I guess it stands for Lori P. Greene.
Yes, it does. So my motto is edutainment for global learners. So edutainment, which is education and entertainment. I really am kind of allergic to the boring, rote e-learning that passes off as education and some of the things that I see. It really upsets me to see that. And I really want to make things more entertaining. It's kind of like why students don't really pay attention to their, middle school students don't really pay attention to their teachers. They're paying more attention to TikTok or Instagram Reels or other things along those lines, because it's told in a way that they can learn. So if you concentrate on the learner experience and how they learn, then I think you'll be very successful.
Sounds real to me. I think the secret is in keeping the attention of the audience.
Yes.
And sometimes it's a short span you've got to work with.
Exactly.
The MTV generation has grown up to be the TikTok micro.
Yes.
Micro. Yes. Yes. What about your success secrets that you can share with us?
So I think the number one is resilience. You cannot be in this economy, in this job market now, and not be resilient. And along with that goes flexibility. You need to be flexible. I have often taken a job. My job at Netflix changed 3 times. Very much changed. And it was similar, but, and you have to just be ready to move with the times, to understand you should be playing with ChatGPT now. You should be understanding AI. I had a student at one of my classes who basically said, oh, I don't want to touch ChatGPT. AI is going to take my job away. And I said, you know what's going to take your job away? Somebody who actually knows how to use the tools instead of you. So learn them, understand them. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of them. Sure, might there be a bad thing, negative consequences? Of course, there might be, but that doesn't mean you should be running away from it. So it's that, and passion, like I said earlier. People can tell when you're excited and when you're passionate about something. And I've been a hiring manager many times. And I ask people, like, what is your hobby? Like, what are you passionate about? What do you love to do? And if they tell me they don't have really one and there's nothing, I don't hire them. Honestly, I remember I hired this one guy who ended up being great because he told me about his music passion. And I could just see his face lighting up and everything light up. So I knew he was a passionate person. And I only want to work with people who are passionate.
Yeah, those kind of guys can rub off on others and inspire them, right?
Exactly.
Why would somebody buy from lpgedu?
It's interesting. When I went out, when I was at Netflix, I was looking for people like me, and I really didn't find them. There are people who do e-learning. There are organizations, but there aren't those places that have like a whole learning suite of things that they can do, like strategy. I led the strategy for Netflix because what our goal was is to scale education. We were in, at the time, 190 countries. We're probably in more at the moment. And how are we going to scale education? And so I came up with the whole strategy. I implemented the plan. And so I understand, and I understand it not only just from an educator side, because I've been a teacher for almost 15 years, but I also understand it from the brand side and what they're trying to accomplish. Yeah. And I've been a learner, and I really look at the learner, as I said earlier, the learner experience. How do they best learn? I tell the story that my son, when he was 5 years old, he knew all of the presidents of the US by heart. And a few years later, he tried to teach them to me. And I literally could not remember them. But then when I ran the New York City Marathon and I had 2 hours of music, I knew the words to every single solitary song that was on my playlist. Why? What is that? And it's really about looking at how do people learn and what is the best way to get them to learn the material that you need to share with them.
For each mile you had a song, and for each 100 yards you had to get through the stanzas, right?
Yeah. It was great. You know, so I have a few bucket lists. So I also believe in bucket lists, right? And so one of my bucket lists was to run the New York City Marathon, which I did. Another one was to climb Mount Kilimanjaro, which I did. Another one was to be on all 7 continents by the time I was 30, which I did. And I'm looking at what my next one is.
I just haven't found a way or interest in getting to Antarctica. So you said that's worth it?
Oh my God, yes.
Oh gosh, my bucket list just has got to grow again.
It's one of those places that I think, and again, I'm not an astronaut, but I think it's more like being on another planet than anywhere else in the world. There are no hotels, there are no restaurants, there's no inns, there's no it's all ice and absolutely pristine and gorgeous. And somebody asked me the other day, like last week, like, you've been all over, you've traveled. What is your most memorable adventure? And what I remembered once is when I was in Antarctica, I was on my stomach, kind of sliding down a hill. It was like a high hill, but it wasn't a mountain. And a penguin was tobogganing next to me on its stomach. And I just will never forget how unbelievable that was for me. Boy, Super. We digressed from why would someone buy from you to Antarctica, but
I think that's more fun for the audience to look at you and think, tobogganing with penguins.
Yes.
What more could Lori do for me?
Yes, exactly. I think also traveling is one of those things that really expand your horizons. And it helped me a lot when I was going around the world to teach, to run training, because I think a lot of like the US or the UK, it's very like ethnocentric. It's like, this is the way you do it, my way or the highway. And you just can't impose all those things in other places when they might not have the infrastructure that you have. They might not have the technology that you have. They just do things differently. People don't hire the way they hire here or in the UK. So I think the traveling, and this is really true, really helped me understand the sense of cooperation and collaboration that you need to have when you're going to other places to do training or anything else.
I can believe that. Your ideal client, somebody who's going to contact LPGEDU, who would that be?
So, anyone in production, media, marketing, people who really want to impart information in a really interesting, entertaining, and vibrant way. Not if you just want to do something that's very boring and rote, then you can. But at Netflix, we did production accounting training. Believe it or not, there are people called production accountants. And I showed it to I shared it with a lot of different people, and they were like, wow, this is really fun and entertaining. And we did cover all of the material that needed to be covered, but we did our best to really do it in a way that was very engaging and entertainment. And I truly believe that helps people not only learn, but retain information and remember it.
Sounds like a whole podcast in of itself.
Yes.
Production accounting.
Yes, it could be.
How do you find the clients that are coming to you now?
I'm kind of shameless. I'll ask anyone for anything at any time, and I have no qualms about it. So I'm doing a lot of that. I'm going to my contacts. I have a lot of people I'm connected to on LinkedIn, and I will look and I will ask and I network as much as possible and join organizations. I think that's really important. I was on the board of New York Women in Communications for many years, and I met all the senior people, all the senior women in media. And that was really amazing. I was on the board of the Content Council. I run an advisory board for Temple University, the Fox Business School. And I think you need to have a really good network if you want to go out, and you should have a good network no matter what, and you should constantly be networking with people. And it's not about just asking people like, what can I do for you? Or it's about understanding what they do, what their pain points are, what their needs are, and how you might be able to help them with whatever it is that they're struggling with.
Yeah, I would think in your business, and I interview a lot of CEOs and founders of companies, I would think somebody in your role would be a highly desired collaborator. And
Yes.
You're probably faced with selecting the few that fit at your level. You want to fit perfectly with whoever you choose to work with at this point.
Yeah,
So
well, I'm fairly open. I'm fairly open to talk to people, and I have so many different things that I can do. I've done branding for people. I write people's resumes. I do their LinkedIn profiles. I've helped a lot of people get jobs in that way. And so I try to take all of my talents, and put them into any business that I run.
That's perfect. Lead into this question, what are your products and services that you're offering through the LPGEDU?
So education strategy, much like I did for Netflix. What are you trying to accomplish? What are the goals? How are you going to measure them? So that's important. E-learning and video production as it pertains to learning and education, and live training, right? From where you're going to have it to what is the rubric for it, to the pedagogy. Is it impactful, to how they're going to retain it, to all of that. So really everything within the education realm, and it's mostly content creation. I can help with a learning management system and with the technical part, but that's not my area of expertise. Is really the delivery and the content creation.
I got it. That's exactly what people need most help on. I know the platforms that people have to put out the educational content, you got to have the platform, but it's the content that really makes everything happen.
Yes. So I just started my company, so there aren't a huge amount of platforms, but what I learned at Netflix is I don't take notes on paper ever. I do everything on Google and Google Docs or Google Sheets or Google Slides. And so I could have access to it everywhere. And I take copious notes because my memory is sometimes not the greatest. And I'm talking to so many people, especially now that I'm in a big blooming new business development stage. And so I rely on Google Suites a lot. When I was at Netflix, we relied on a learning management system called Docebo, although there's a lot out there. We work with Blackboard at NYU. We work with Brightspace at NYU. We work at Blackboard at Fordham. And so it really just depends on what client I'm working with and what platform they're on and how we can work together. I used to use Basecamp as a project management system. I have found I don't really love, I've tried Monday. There aren't a lot of them that I really love. I need to experiment more with like Calendly or some of those that really help you schedule. Other than that, it's mostly Google Suite and Microsoft. documents
Sure.
as well.
Well, there's a lot of programs that are good. A lot of them are separate from each other. They don't connect together. And so,
Yes.
in the long run, if they could all be connected together seamlessly, wouldn't that be the best?
Right. And I feel like a lot of those systems, people have to learn and you have to get uptake. So I love Slack. I do love Slack. I haven't really used it in my business, but at Netflix, really, I think Slack is great. And that is a really great a really good, solid communication tool.
Yeah, I've been a user of Basecamp and Slack and some of these myself. And I'm glad to say I'm hopeful that there will be better things coming soon. And one things I'll share with you at the end is some things I think might be on the horizon related to that.
Fantastic.
What do you do right now? You could say gives people a 5-star client experience with your new company.
I do deep dives. I really want to dive in and understand everything that I can about the company. So I think the discovery process is incredibly important. I think people don't concentrate enough on that. And then just personalization and personalized. And, I roll up, I do strategy up here, and I also roll up my sleeves and I will pick up the garbage. I will lay out brochures. I will move chairs. I will just do whatever it needs to get done to make something an amazing experience.
Yeah, it sounds like you're a great team player. You work with
Yes.
the C-suite, but you also work with the line workers.
Absolutely.
Tell us what you are grateful for today, Lori.
So I live in gratitude. So one of your questions, I think, was like, how do you start your day? So I start my day at 5:30 and I meditate. And one of the things that I do every day is I say 5 new things that I'm grateful for, right? So, and they have to be new things. And I really think gratitude is the answer to happiness. Because even if you're having the worst day, even if everything is falling apart and things are not great, and you're upset about the news, or you're upset about politics, or whatever it is, you can be thankful for your health. You can be thankful for, the river that's outside. There's so many things that you can be grateful for. And I think about that kind of a thing every day. So, it's all about, so I'm grateful for my husband and my son, obviously. I'm grateful for the time that I had at Netflix. I'm grateful that I've had this incredible career that has spanned so many different companies and so many different roles. And I'm grateful that I get to travel, and I'm grateful for this podcast. I just have a lot of gratitude. And if you put gratitude in your attitude, I think you will win.
Perfect. Well, gratitude seems to be the theme for the day as I'm speaking with my podcast friends from New York. Being able to do things from New York, it gives you a place to go from, and you have a centered life in New York, but you can go and be outside of New York, and you travel, which
yes,
I'm kind of like that here in Atlanta. I like to be able to travel, and that's kind of one of the joys of my life too.
Yeah.
Tell me about you.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
So I also would advise, people to just get in the car and explore their neighborhood. You don't have to go to all 7 continents. You can just we do that. My husband and I do that a lot. We'll just go, and we'll go like 2 hours, and we'll discover a new little village, or we'll go to a farmer's market somewhere, or like we'll get in the car and explore. And there's so many great things to explore that's very close to where your neighborhood is. I mean, there's wonderful things to explore near Georgia. I'll tell you that.
2 hours from 2 hours from our house is so many different things you can do here. And I know New York, same way.
Absolutely. For sure.
We were up in New York a couple of months ago, and you just walked through the East Village.
Yeah.
And just walked down through Hell's Kitchen. And it's like a night and a day.
Yep. Yeah, and then you have the High Line here. I live by the river, and so you can walk for like a couple of miles on the river, and and the breeze from that is just lovely, and I can see the river from my window. So it's fantastic.
And
I
the
lived
little
in
life,
LA. I lived in LA for a couple of years, and we love that. Every weekend we would go and explore somewhere, and we miss it. We miss it. I moved to LA for Netflix, and I moved back to New York for Netflix as well.
okay. Well, what is your challenge in your life? What do you do if you lose your job, have to change, they downsize? What do you do?
So I was actually talking to somebody else about this conversation. So I truly believe in a limited pity party. So in other words, give yourself 2 days a week, but give yourself a deadline for your pity party and then move on. Right. I was laid off at Netflix in July. I ended my run there in October, but I was laid off in July. And I was laid off on a Wednesday, and then on that next day, I pitched myself to another entity at Netflix, and they said they couldn't hire me, but asked me if I would consult. And I flew home that night, and I wrote my business plan on the plane. And so I didn't have time really for a pity party, because then I was I was still working at Netflix, cleaning up everything, and then I was working on launching my business. So keep busy. Also, keep busy. I think if you're sitting around and you're moping, I don't think that that's great for you. Get out, go do things. I tell the story that I was laid off from a job quite a few years ago. And that night my husband and I were supposed to go to a party for a friend of his, a former colleague. And I really didn't want to go. And I was like, oh, I dragged myself out of the house. And I was like, oh God. And it turns out that his wife was looking for somebody to do marketing for a major company. And I got an offer. It wasn't the right job for me, but I got an offer because I just pulled myself up and said, oh, and went. And I really believe in do what you say and say what you'll do, right? And if you say you're going to do something, and if you commit to something, you just do it. And I will do it unless I'm like coughing, sneeze, unless I can't get out of bed, I will go. And if I say I'm going to do something, I do it.
I believe that's true. You seem like you're honest and you have integrity.
Thank you.
When I was in dentistry, I always was proud of the fact that I didn't miss a day for 47 years.
Wow.
Except one day. I broke my collarbone and had to go in the hospital to have it reset. And I was back in the office 2 days later. So,
yeah.
I just don't believe in letting people down. If I made an appointment to show up, I usually show up.
Me too.
And, that's a sign of success, is that you show up when you say you're going to show up.
I think you're asking me like what the secret for success is. I don't know, probably 80% is showing up, is being there for people, showing up, helping other people too is really, really important.
And it's not just showing up physically, but showing up mentally.
Exactly. Being there.
Being interested in what people are saying.
Yeah.
Listening well.
Yep.
So you have a plan to make LPGEDU successful. What are you going to do?
I do have a plan. What is my plan? So I have been gathering contacts. I'm going to send an announcement out in January, like a Happy New Year, and an announcement out to over.
Am I going to be on the list to get this content?
Sure. My goal is to send it to over 100 possible to people. Talk to everyone, network, go out, go to events, do whatever you can to speak to people and find people and help them. And then also help others, because I don't think anyone gets through this life alone without helping others. And you need to be known as one of those people who not just shows up, not just is passionate, but that actually helps others. So I don't necessarily ask for anything, but we talk about it and I tell them what I do. And if they say, oh, I know somebody, or there might be this person or that person, then I will talk to that person. And I send out a lot of new business emails, lots.
Yep. I know where you've been. I know where you're going.
Yes.
I was a generator of content for all 40 years that I've been teaching, and I've always had to enroll my classes. And so enrollment is a tough job if you're an
Yes.
educator. It's easy to make the content. It's hard to get an enrollment. The marketing
Yes.
part I find
Yes.
is much harder than the content creation.
Yes.
So let's talk about your husband or your significant other. What role does it seem to be that he's in cohorts with you doing all these things, or does he stand by the side and watch you do it?
So one of the things, I mean, I read Sheryl Sandberg's book, Lean In. And basically she said the most important career decisions you can ever make in your life is who you marry. And I don't disagree. My husband is my greatest supporter. He stands by me for whatever crazy ideas I have, for whatever I do. He helps me. He has designed my logo in the past. He's photographed for me. He's my greatest supporter. And I think that it's really important that you have somebody who believes in you. You have someone in your life, your significant other, who really believes in you, believes in who you are, and supports you, because it's really hard not to go through life without that, to me. And so I think that's part of my secret for success, is having somebody who pushes me up constantly.
Yeah, it sounds like he enjoys the lifestyle too, the travel.
Yes.
He
Yes.
enjoys going. Does he go with you most of these places?
Yes, he does. But he's also a travel journalist. He has 8 books out. He's working on book 9 now. He's actually under deadline for book 9. His name is Peter Guttman, Guttman. And he's been to over 240 countries as per the as per this club, and he's amazing. And I used to travel because of him. And then when I was at Netflix, he came with me, and so we just love it. We both really, really love to travel.
Yeah, what a compliment of each other's strengths, and you play off each other very well.
Yes.
About 2 weeks ago, I interviewed a travel blogger who was calling herself a digital nomad. And traveled the world, lived in New Zealand for a year, just doing that one country, but she had done like 34 countries. And her secret to her existence, it was interesting to me, was she house sat where she traveled.
Yeah.
And so her expenses were low and her income was generated by user-generated content.
Yeah.
So, people have different modes of operation, and yours is one that's very interesting. It's kind of at the executive level of digital nomad.
Yeah. Yes.
Very interesting. And I think a lot of people would aspire to do that if they had your talents. What about advice? This is a good question. You got your young self, you're sitting there. What do you tell yourself, knowing what you know now?
So it's going to be okay. That is the biggest takeaway I would tell my 20-year-old self. It's going to be okay. I remember I was reading this book where this doctor, he was a gerontologist, interviewed, 300 people over the age of 80 and asked them, like, what is your biggest regret in life? And basically they said worrying, that they really regret that they spent so much time worrying. So it's going to be okay. That's what I would tell you if you're in your 20s. And that's what I wish I knew, because I worried about everything. And also, if you pick one career, I've had like 20 careers. So don't worry if you don't like it, if it's not for you. Just figure out how you can do lateral moves, and it's not forever. And it's actually good to know what you don't like to do as much as it's good to know what you like to do, and that will put you in good stead. So don't worry, it's all going to be okay.
I think that's pretty good advice for anybody. I've been a dentist for 47 years, and now I'm totally not a dentist. I'm doing something totally different. I'm repping IT products.
Huh.
So, hey, influencers can influence in different ways, right?
Absolutely.
Who's your living mentor right now?
So I've been very, very lucky. I've had so many people who have helped me and inspired me, and who I who I analyze and imitate, honestly. But I mean, I think someone like Warren Buffett, who's going to give away like 95% of his wealth, which I think is amazing. Jimmy
Lori,
Carter.
are you on his list? That's what I want to know.
I wish, right? Jimmy Carter, who left the presidency and was hammering nails into houses for the homeless. My former boss, Chris Mack, who taught me so much about compassion. My mentor and friend, this great consultant, Erica Greene of Quantum Media, who teaches me things all the time. And then my husband, who is always there to help me be a better person as well, Peter Gutman. So there's so many people that have impacted me in my life, and I try to give back because of that.
Excellent. Well, I think Peter's going to be very happy that he got mentioned 3 times.
I know.
And I want to get his travel books because I love travel stories. So I grew up and learned reading Michener and his travels.
Oh, I love those books.
How many people have read Afghanistan?
I've never read Afghanistan. That would be a good one. I'll put it on my book list.
Well, it was not called Afghanistan, but it was called Caravan. But it was,
no, I never read it.
It was about his travels. And, I enjoyed Chesapeake and I enjoyed Caribbean. Number one book he wrote that I enjoyed was Caribbean because it talked about the pirates.
Yeah. Oh, fun.
And I'm a Jimmy Buffett fan, and pirate and all of his books were similar.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Tell me about what's important to you about being impactful. You're definitely doing that in your career.
Well, I think you can be impactful in different ways. So we used to talk about this a lot at Netflix. Like, what are you doing to be impactful? And I think teaching is really one of the most impactful things you can do to help people. And I've always found my purpose in life is to help people be the best that they can be. And to me, education is one of the best ways to do that.
I agree with that. Being an educator, I always found that I could impact somebody better by giving them tools for success. And life skills come from teachers.
Yep.
Unfortunately, teaching has devolved in the public space, but in the private space, it's better. So you've been involved in the private space for most of your career.
Yeah. And I also think some of those soft skills are important to teach, right? Communication, collaboration, confidentiality, like what does all of that mean? I think those are very important as well. And I wish we taught more of it.
Yeah. I go back to my childhood and I think my best education came from being in the Boy Scouts. And I went from age 8 to 18 in the organization. And so I rose through every rank and got every merit badge. And the education you get from micro study of different aspects of life, that's what you're talking about, life skills.
Yep, exactly.
What do you want to be remembered for when it's all said and done, Lori?
For my purpose, for helping people. I want to be remembered for helping people, for inspiring people, for moving people. I do a blog. I call it a blog. I post on LinkedIn, which is how you found me. I post a lot on LinkedIn and I like to be really positive, and I'm hoping that I inspire people to feel better about who they are and what they do in the world.
Excellent. Yeah. I think you are going to be remembered. I think you've got a pleasant and open spirit about you.
Thank you.
And very trustworthy. I think it's going to go a long way in our audience. People are going to want to know more about you. So that's the purpose of a podcast, is to get to know people. And I think we've done well there. How can we support you? Give us the links again, other than the fact that it's written right below here.
Yeah. So LinkedIn, please follow me on LinkedIn. I love that. I love to hear from people. I like influencing people. And so follow me on LinkedIn. If you know someone who needs some education or some training, please reach out to me. And if I can help you, in any way, I'm here to help. So please do that.
Perfect. It'd be fun to go to a cocktail party with you and your husband, because the travel stories would be fantastic.
They are. They are.
I bet you get a lot of invites just so you can share your experiences. So
Yeah.
tell us about your experience on the show today.
Oh, it's been wonderful. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, we've enjoyed having you here, and all of our audience has just kind of got their appetites whetted. They want to know more.
Great.
So we will definitely share you and the rest of what you have to offer in the future. Tell us in the next couple of minutes what your final word is for our audience.
Be fearless. Get out of your comfort zone. Say yes to opportunities. Keep growing, keep learning, and work every single solitary day to be the best you can be. Those are my final words.
Be the best you can be. Well, be like Lori.
Or the better version of you. Better than me.
BVY. Better version of you.
Yes.
I like it. Well, I appreciate you being on the Influencer Podcast. We've got people asking questions already in my personal chat. So I know you're going to impact some people here, and I want to make sure that if we can impact the audience through connection so they can help their lives get improved, and that's what we're all about. Capture freedom. If you go to my QR code, Lori, this is for the audience to learn more about how to get on the Influencer Podcast. And that digital business card goes to my website. And you can find out more at drbillwilliams.tv about being on the Influencers Podcast. You can see the previous episodes. That digital nomad I mentioned, great idea for people who want to start being a digital nomad. If you want to start being a educator in the content space, well, Lori can give you advice. She's even helpful for companies, I guess, to join in and give them strategies to be successful. So a lot of things that can be done by connecting. One of the things that I want to promote to everyone who's listening is our software products are all artificial intelligence based, and they're all connected together seamlessly. So if you want to look at the AI technology of the future, just come to my website, otrim.co/DrBillW will give you the entryway to see what we're doing. AI technology of the future. One thing I want to finish up with today, though, and this kind of applies to what your passion is, Lori, we have an Bless platform. We have several platforms that are going to be perfect for you to look into, to maybe use, maybe recommend to people. One of them is how to bless others, how to impact your community. And this is a GoFundMe type of a program where you can take a project, a nonprofit, a concept, an idea, an innovation, and promote it and get support. So you can promote yourself, you can promote your business, your nonprofit, and we have the marketing, the money requesting and collection system all built into that one product. So that's free. We give this away. This is kind of our gift to the world. So the Bless program is a platform for startups. So I thought maybe that would be good. There's another one we're going to show pretty soon called Academy, where it's a teaching platform. So we'll be able to have content put out where people can monetize their content. So that would be something to look forward to in the future. Lori, thanks for being on the Influencer Podcast. Excellent that you were able to share your life, your story. Very interesting and inspiring, I think, for everyone. This is Dr. Bill Williams on the Influencer Podcast, and we'll see you all on the next show coming up next week. Have a good weekend. It's Christmas. It's Hanukkah. It's all season for joy.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Happy holidays.